I'm Ethan Ward, 34 years old. For most of my adult life, I believed I understood what stability felt like: routine mornings, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen, the familiar sound of footsteps moving through our apartment. I lived with the quiet conviction that my marriage to Claire was solid, grounded in years of shared dreams and whispered promises. I wasn't perfect, no one is, but I gave what I had, the best way I knew how. For a long time, I thought that was enough. I worked as a project manager for a mid-sized architecture firm. Claire was a fitness instructor at a local studio, confident, radiant, always surrounded by people who admired her energy. She was the type of woman who walked into a room and altered its temperature: warmth, light, attention. I loved her for it, even when it intimidated me. We met 9 years ago at a friend's birthday party, and from that very night she moved through my life like a sudden summer storm, fast, intense, overwhelming, unforgettable. For years, I believed nothing could ever dim that initial spark. But sparks can burn out quietly, so quietly that you don't even realize you're standing in the dark until someone flips a switch. And that moment, the switch, came 3 months ago. But before I get to that, I have to explain how the distance began creeping in, how subtle it was, how easy it was for me to dismiss the signs as stress, fatigue, or just shifts in routine. It started with her phone. She used to toss it anywhere: on the couch, on the kitchen counter, sometimes even leave it in the bathroom. But suddenly she kept it close, screen always tilted away, notifications silenced. When it buzzed, she would glance at it with a tiny, nervous smile. And every time I asked who it was, the answer was always the same: just a friend from the studio. The first time she said it, I didn't think twice. The 10th time, my stomach tightened. Still, I said nothing. I wanted to trust her. I did trust her. Trust, to me, was like oxygen: necessary, invisible, and taken for granted until it's gone. At the same time, she started staying late after work. Clients, she said. New schedules, special sessions. I'll be home soon. But soon became hours. And when she walked through the door, her hair was damp, cheeks flushed, and she smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I noticed. Of course, I noticed. But I forced myself to stay rational, to avoid becoming the jealous husband who imagines shadows where there are none. Maybe I was afraid that if I asked the wrong question, her answer would become the truth I didn't want. Then came the night everything shifted. It was a Thursday, cold, rainy, thick clouds pressing low against the sky. I came home earlier than usual because a meeting was canceled. Claire thought I'd be working late. When I entered the apartment, the place was dark except for the faint glow of her phone on the kitchen counter. It startled me to see it there, unlocked, screen still illuminated. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and what I saw hollowed me out. A thread of messages with someone named N. Not Marcus from her gym, not Megan, not anyone I knew. Just N, the most anonymous, dangerous letter in the alphabet. The messages weren't graphic. They didn't need to be. They were worse in their subtlety. Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. Same place tomorrow. Ethan suspects. That last one punched air out of my lungs. Claire's response read, no, he trusts me too much. And that sentence, God, it hit harder than the rest. Not just betrayal, but arrogance. That quiet certainty that I would never doubt her, that I was predictable, safe, harmless. My hands shook so violently that the screen blurred. For the first time in years, something inside me cracked open: an old instinct. The one that whispers that trusting too much is how you get ruined. Just as I placed the phone down, the front door unlocked. Claire walked in, drenched from the rain, her smile bright but tired. She was humming softly, something upbeat, something careless, the way someone hums when their world feels peaceful. She saw me, her smile faltered. You're home early, she said, lowering her bag slowly. I nodded, trying to breathe normally, trying not to look like a man who had just watched his life tilt off its axis. Meeting ended sooner than expected. Her eyes darted to the counter, her phone. I watched the exact moment her chest tightened, The moment panic flickered behind her lashes. "Did you see something?" she asked quietly. There were 1,000 ways I could have answered. Rage, accusations, shouting, demands. But instead, I said nothing. I walked past her, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Not because I didn't want answers, but because I knew that if I stayed, I would break something in myself or in her that we could never repair. Silence felt safer than my voice. As I stepped out into the rain, the door closing behind me, I realized something chilling. I wasn't leaving because I didn't love her. I was leaving because I wasn't sure if I still respected her. And respect, once gone, doesn't return easily. I didn't know it then, but that night was only the beginning, the first fracture in a story that would unravel piece by piece, truth by brutal truth. But everything, absolutely everything, started there, with her phone unlocked, with the rain hitting the windows, and with the sound of my own heartbeat, too loud, too angry, too broken. That was the moment I stopped being the man I used to be, and started becoming the man who would eventually face the truth, even the parts that hurt the most. I didn't sleep that night. The glow of my phone screen was the only light in the room, and even it felt intrusive, like it exposed something I still refused to acknowledge. I kept scrolling through old pictures of us, vacations, dinners, birthday, surprises, like looking for some hidden message I had missed at the time. Something obvious, something that would explain how a woman who used to cling to my arm now barely looked at me. By morning, the apartment felt cold. Not physically, just empty in a way I couldn't put into words. I found Emma in the kitchen, dressed for work, stirring her coffee with the expression of someone bored with life. Or bored with me. She glanced up. "Did you sleep?" "No." I watched her carefully, trying to detect even the faintest sign of guilt. Instead, she looked annoyed. "Then try not to take it out on me," she muttered, walking past me. It wasn't what she said, it was the tone. Detached, defensive, like I had become a stranger disturbing her peace. All morning at work, my mind spiraled. I replayed everything from the last few weeks. Her late nights, her sudden obsession with her phone, the way she snapped every time I asked how her day was. The puzzle pieces were forming an image I refused to believe. At lunch, I called Lucas, my closest friend, and probably the only person I trusted enough to talk to about this. "Man, you sound like hell," he said after hearing my voice. "It's Emma. Something's wrong. I don't know if I'm imagining things, but you think she's cheating." I froze. Hearing someone else say it made the possibility real, violent, suffocating. "I don't want to think that," I whispered. "Have you tried talking to her?" "I did." She just snapped, like she was offended I even asked. Lucas exhaled sharply. "Look, maybe it's stress, maybe it's nothing, but if something feels off, it usually is." When I came home that evening, Emma was already there, earbuds in, pacing the living room. She didn't hear me enter at first. She sounded excited. Her voice was low, almost playful. "No, stop. I told you I can't tonight." Yes, I miss you too." My heart left my body. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. When she noticed me, she jumped and pulled the earbuds out so fast they nearly tore. "Jesus, you scared me." "Who were you talking to?" she scoffed. "Are we doing this again? I heard you say you missed them." "It was Sarah." "Relax. We were planning a trip." "Sarah doesn't talk like that." Her eyebrow twitched, the smallest betrayal of panic, but she buried it quickly. "You know what? I'm done with this paranoia." She pushed past me toward the hallway. "I'm taking a shower." The bathroom door slammed, but her phone was still on the couch. I stared at it like it was a bomb. My hand shook. I wasn't the type to invade someone's privacy. But this wasn't about control. This was about survival. Before I fully understood what I was doing, I picked it up. A single notification with the screen. "Can't stop thinking about last night." From a contact saved under a single letter, D. My stomach caved in, my knees nearly buckled. I opened the chat. Her messages were short, careful, but his were bold, hungry. dripping with intimacy that used to be mine. You looked unbelievable today. When can I see you alone? Your husband doesn't suspect anything. My vision blurred. The phone vibrated again. D, you free tomorrow? I want more of you. I nearly threw the phone across the room. When the shower finally stopped, I forced myself to sit on the couch, acting calm, phone lying beside me. My heartbeat was a thunderstorm. Emma walked out in a towel, humming softly like someone living a double life without guilt, without remorse, without fear of losing me. Why are you staring at me like that? She asked. I saw your messages, I said quietly. Her face drained of color. Give me the phone, she whispered, stepping forward. No. She froze, realizing she had lost the ability to control the narrative. Who is D? I demanded. My voice was low. Not angry, just broken. A friend, she said immediately, too quickly. Don't insult me. She swallowed hard, gripping her towel like it anchored her to reality. It's complicated. No, I said, standing up. It's simple. You're cheating on me. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She didn't ask me to listen. She just whispered, I didn't think you'd find out. The honesty hit harder than any lie could have. I walked past her to the bedroom. She followed, panic growing in her footsteps. Where are you going? She asked. Away from you. Wait, can we talk? No, I said without looking at her. You talked to him. You gave him parts of you that were supposed to be mine. She grabbed my arm, but her touch felt foreign, invasive. I didn't do it to hurt you. You did it because you wanted to, I said, and that's worse. I left the apartment before she could say another word. Outside, the street was quiet, the air cold. I leaned against my car, staring at nothing, trying to hold myself together. My life, my marriage, my trust, everything felt like shattered glass. And I knew that this was only the beginning. I didn't recognize my own home anymore. Not the smell of freshly brewed coffee in the mornings, not the quiet hum of the refrigerator, not even the sound of Mia's footsteps. Everything felt foreign, like I was walking through the life of a stranger who looked like me, talked like me, slept in my bed but wasn't me. The morning after everything came crashing down, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the chair where Mia used to sit. She always curled her legs up, always tapped her spoon against the cup 3 times, always smiled sleepily at me like I was the first good thing she saw that day. Now that chair felt like evidence. I tried to work. I really did. I went to the office, sat in front of my laptop, stared at the screen as if it owed me answers. But all I could think about was the Mia and Ethan, her voice in the hallway, her silence at home, his messages, that goddamn look between them. Everything repeated in my head in a loop so relentless it made my chest hurt. By noon, I walked out of the office without saying a word. My manager called twice. I ignored it. My phone vibrated with a text from Mia. Can we talk tonight? I didn't respond. I drove aimlessly through the city, past places that used to mean something. The cafe where we had our first date, the library where she studied, and I pretended to read while secretly just watching her. The riverside bench where I told her I loved her for the first time. Now every one of those places felt like scenes from someone else's movie, someone else's memories. Eventually, for reasons I still don't understand, I ended up near Ethan's apartment building. I wasn't planning anything. I wasn't going to fight him. I'm not that kind of man. I just stood across the street, watching people go in and out, imagining him somewhere inside, probably living his life without an ounce of guilt or consequence. It made my stomach twist. I left before anger pushed me into doing something stupid. When evening came, I finally went home. Mia was waiting at the dining table, hands clasped, eyes red, hair tied back in the messy way she did when she'd been crying for hours. Thank you for coming, she whispered. I live here, I replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she took a shaky breath. I ended it with him. For good. I didn't react. I didn't know how to. She continued. I know you don't trust me anymore. I know I ruined everything. But I want to explain, not to excuse anything, just to tell you the truth. The truth. The thing I thought I wanted more than anything. And somehow the one thing I feared hearing most. I nodded stiffly. She looked down at her hands. It didn't start with cheating. It started with loneliness. With me feeling like you were slipping away and I didn't know how to reach you. That's not an excuse, I said quietly. I know, she whispered. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I want you to know why. Not because it's your fault, it isn't. I made the choice. I betrayed you. But I want you to understand what was happening in my head. She talked for a long time. About her insecurities. About feeling unappreciated. About wanting attention. And choosing the worst possible place to find it. Every word hurt. Every sentence felt like rubbing salt into wounds that hadn't even begun to close. When she finally fell silent, she had tears streaming down her cheeks. I still love you, she said. That never changed. I swallowed hard. Because it would have been easier if she didn't. If she said she fell out of love. If she wanted someone else. If she wanted to leave, I could hate her easily then. But she didn't give me that out. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I don't know how to be around you. I don't know how to look at you without seeing everything. She covered her face with her hands. I'll do anything. Therapy. Distance. Time. I'll move out if you want. She choked on her words. I don't want to lose you. For the first time, I really looked at her. Not the woman who cheated. Not the woman who lied. Just Mia. The woman I built a life with. The woman whose toothbrush still sat beside mine. The woman who was breaking apart in front of me, piece by piece, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not forgiveness. Not love. Not even anger. Just exhaustion. I need time, I said finally. She nodded through tears. I'll give you anything. That night, I slept on the couch. Mia stayed in the bedroom, and even though we were only separated by a wall, it felt like we were living into different worlds. To people who used to know each other better than anyone, now learning how terrifying it is to be strangers. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, gripping the sides of the sink as if the porcelain could keep me from falling apart. My reflection looked older than it should have, eyes deeper, jaw tighter, shoulders lower. It had only been 3 weeks since I'd learned the truth. 3 weeks since my life split cleanly into before and after. Before, my wife's laughter filling the kitchen. After, the echo of an empty hallway. Before, trust. After, a knife in the spine disguised as a kiss. The nights weren't any easier. Sleep came in pieces, broken shards sharp enough to cut into me when I closed my eyes. Every time, the same image waited behind my eyelids, her body pressed against someone else's, her voice whispering things to him she used to whisper to me. The worst part was that my mind filled in the details I never actually saw. Betrayal has a cruel imagination. I kept thinking I'd get used to it, but I didn't. I just adapted to hurting. That morning, I made coffee out of habit, poured 2 cups, and then stared at the second one until the steam vanished. I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear slipped into the mug, rippling the surface. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, ashamed even though no one was watching. I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment before I could think myself back into bed. The air outside was cold enough to bite, and maybe I needed that bite. I walked, without direction, down streets I used to walk with her. Our memories sat like ghosts on every corner, her leaning into my shoulder, her laughing at something stupid I said, her hand sliding into mine. Now my hand felt empty enough to ache. I ended up by the river. Water has a way of carrying heavy thoughts. Maybe that's why I kept coming back here. The current moved with a slow determination, as if nothing, not even the cold, could stop it. I envied that. I sat on the railing and stared at the water until my phone buzzed in my pocket. At first, I ignored it, but when it buzzed again, something inside me tightened. I looked at the screen. Her name, her picture, the person who had split me open. now lighting up my phone as if nothing had happened. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wasn't ready, but I opened the message anyway. "Can we talk?" I laughed, a low, humorless sound forced out of me. Of course she wanted to talk. People like her always want one more conversation, one more piece of the heart they already damaged. I typed "about what?" She responded instantly, "Please." "It's important." Important. Was her apology important? Her explanations, her tears, her attempt to convince me it didn't mean anything? But against my better judgment, against my instincts, I agreed. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I needed to hear the truth from her lips, even if it shattered me again. We chose a cafe near downtown, neutral territory. A place that smelled like roasted coffee beans and distant regrets. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a table by the window. Her hair was tied the way I always liked it, which somehow made it worse. She looked up when I entered, and for a moment our eyes locked. She looked scared. Good. Fear was honest. I sat across from her without saying anything. She swallowed hard, gathering words she wasn't sure she could hold. "I'm glad you came," she whispered. I gave her nothing. No nod, no smile, no softness. She took a breath. "I know I hurt you, and I'm not expecting forgiveness. But you deserve the truth, all of it." I stayed silent. Silence was safer. She looked down at her hand, still wearing the ring I hadn't taken back. It didn't start the way you think. It wasn't planned. I didn't go out looking for someone else. I didn't wake up wanting to betray you." My jaw tightened. I forced myself to keep breathing. "He listened," she continued. "He was there at a moment when you were busy, tired, distant. I'm not blaming you, just explaining. I was stupid, weak. And once the line was crossed, I didn't know how to come back. I was ashamed." Another word people like her use to make themselves sound human. I finally spoke. My voice came out low, cracked. "You could have talked to me. I know. You could have told me you were unhappy. I know. You didn't have to destroy us." Her breath broke. A tear slid down her cheek, but I didn't move, didn't comfort her, didn't offer a napkin. Let her drown in the same ocean she threw me into. "There's more," she whispered. I closed my eyes. Of course there was more. There's always more. When I looked again, she couldn't hold my gaze. I saw him again. After everything, my heart didn't break this time. It hardened. A quiet, sharp transformation. She kept talking, words, confessions, regrets, but they sounded distant, muffled, like they were coming through water. By the time she finished, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. There was no us left to save. No version of us that could survive this. No apology deep enough to undo what she had done. When I finally stood up, she looked terrified of what I might say. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply said, "You ended our marriage long before today. I'm just accepting it now." And I walked out. The cold outside didn't sting anymore. I felt strangely calm. Numbness, perhaps, or the beginning of something like freedom. I spent the night awake, sitting on the floor of my apartment with my back against the cold wall, listening to the city hum outside like nothing in the world had changed. But everything in mine had. The truth about her affair wasn't a clean wound anymore. It was a slow-burning infection, spreading through every memory, every moment that used to feel warm. I kept replaying it all in my head, the way her tone shifted months before I ever suspected anything. The way she disappeared into the bathroom with her phone, the sudden excuses for why she was late, why she was tired, why she didn't want to talk. Back then, I thought I was the problem. Now I knew the truth. She had already started drifting away while I kept begging myself not to notice. Morning came, gray and dull. I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, and my body felt like it was glued together with exhaustion. Still, I forced myself to stand, to breathe, to face the day. I knew what I had to do. I had to end it for good, cut the cord, stop letting her decisions dictate the ruins of my life. But before I could do that, I needed closure. Not for her, for myself. Around noon, I finally dialed her number. She picked up instantly, like she had been staring at her screen waiting. "Can we talk?" I asked. My voice sounded dead even to me. "Yes," she whispered. "Please. I want to explain, as if there was anything left to explain. But I told her to meet me at the small park behind our old apartment complex, the place where we had our first real argument, our first reconciliation, our first moment of honesty years ago. Somehow it felt right that it should also be the last. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on the bench, her hands clasped so tightly they trembled. She looked up at me with those familiar eyes that used to feel like home. "I'm sorry," she started. "Don't," I said. One word, sharp enough to stop her. "Don't say sorry unless you mean every consequence of it." She lowered her head. I was angry. I felt alone. "I didn't know how to talk to you, and he did." Her silence was answer enough. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, leaving a gulf of wood and cold air between us. "Do you want him?" I asked. My voice didn't crack. "I'm not asking if you want me anymore. I'm asking if you want him." She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any confession. My heart didn't shatter, not this time. It simply went numb. "You should have told me," I whispered. "You should have given me the truth before everything got so rotten." She wiped her face, her tears falling unchecked. "I thought you'd fight for me." "I did," I said quietly. "I fought every day without even knowing I was in a war." There was a long silence between us, the kind that feels like the world is holding its breath. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "But you did," I replied. "And now I have to live with it." "Not you." I stood up. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said again, softer this time. "If I let you touch me right now, I'll fall apart. And I can't fall apart anymore." She nodded, though her eyes begged for something I could no longer give. "So, is this goodbye?" she asked. "No," I said. "Goodbye is to Queen. This is just the end." I walked away before she could answer, before I lost the fragile strength holding me together. Every step felt like dragging chains, but I didn't stop, not even when I heard her crying behind me, not even when the world blurred from my own tears. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The next weeks were slow torture, empty rooms, silent mornings, the echo of a life I wasn't living anymore. But something unexpected happened. The pain stopped being sharp. It dulled, softened, turned into something I could carry. I didn't forgive her, not yet. Maybe not ever, but I forgave myself for staying as long as I did. I started rebuilding piece by piece. I went to the gym again. I cooked for myself. I cleaned the apartment. I worked late without using it as a distraction. And slowly, I realized something. I wasn't healing because she was gone. I was healing because I was finally choosing myself. One night, months later, I passed by that same park. The bench was empty, the air was cold, the memories were distant. I stood there for a moment, not to grieve, but to acknowledge the past and to let it go. I wasn't the man she betrayed anymore. I wasn't the man who begged for answers. I wasn't the man who waited for someone to come back. I was someone new, and that was enough.